Good morning, Judge Latham.
Good morning.
Please be seated and get comfortable, and when you are, you may begin with your opening statement.
I'll do my best. Before I make my opening statement, I want to first of all thank all of you again for your commitment to this process. I know a lot of you, all of you actually, take it very serious, and I really appreciate your efforts in picking those that will be considered to be appointed to the Court of Appeals bench. It's been a pleasure to speak with all of the new members of this committee and some of you that I spoke to previously in person, again by phone. I find it so much easier to write a decision or opinion about others, but as I told you before, I find it very difficult to write about myself and speak about myself, but I'll do my best today and as I present my story to you and tell you why I believe I would be a good addition to the Court of Appeals. I'm an individual who is honored and privileged and fortunate to serve the citizens of the 7th Judicial District as a district court judge since April of 2013. As a young man growing up in Davenport, Iowa in the West End, it was a bit of a pipe dream to think that I would actually practice as an attorney, and then so far removed to even think I would be a judge, to be honest with all of you. The area I grew up in was within the city limits, but surrounded by agricultural areas. I attended junior high in Walcott, which is primarily comprised of rural students. I'm the oldest of 4 children, and I'm fortunate to have all of my siblings reside in the same community as myself. During my youth, my father, Henry, was a union carpenter, and my mother, Carol, was a homemaker until his untimely death in 1983, at which point she entered the workforce. I always had the support and love of my parents, but due to their limited means, I had to navigate some of those obstacles. But my mother was an amazing individual. She struggled with a debilitating disease with grace, resilience, and with such strength. My mother has been one of the most important individuals in my life. She was an inspiration and provided me with the tools and encouragement to navigate these obstacles. Her influences and spirit has significantly molded me into the individual that I am today before you. Being the oldest of 4 of my siblings, I have a significant internal sense of responsibility, and I still carry that with me today. That sense of responsibility helps me every day in the endeavors that I choose to pursue. My experiences growing up and all of my life experiences provide a basis of empathy to be an effective judge, and I will continue to draw upon those life experiences as a Court of Appeals judge if I'm so fortunate to be appointed. Early on, and with the encouragement of my parents, I recognized that education was the key to secure a successful career. As I unfortunately did not have my father's skills in the area of carpentry. I can see a good angle, but building, just not my suit. Many of my extended family members were really concerned about me for a while, but I proved them I could obtain a job and do well. Although the thought of becoming an attorney was always present, it was during these years my interest in the law began. During my undergraduate studies, I thoroughly enjoyed my business law classes, and an accounting professor whose husband was an attorney encouraged my interest in the law. In addition, while I pursued my undergraduate studies, I was employed at the Rock Island Arsenal, and one of the individuals that I worked with, her nephew was an attorney, and I learned from speaking with her about how great it was to be an attorney. I was fortunate to have these individuals in my life to fuel my desire to do more and pursue a career in law. Upon graduating from law school and starting my practice, I initially thought my practice would focus on corporate or transactional matters. Fortunately, my legal career started in the area of general practice. I discovered later in my professional life this was all for the better and would serve me well, especially now as a district court judge. I represented individuals in criminal, family law, juvenile matters, and personal injury matters. This experience required the full understanding of various aspects of the law and the process of proceeding through the court system. During the first 12 years of my practice, I actually represented individuals in criminal and juvenile matters as a court-appointed attorney. That was a great experience, and I'm very proud of it. Representing those individuals as a court-appointed attorney provided me with the first experience of what it really meant to be a service to those individuals. This is a characteristic I still internalize today as a district court judge. Although I continue to represent individuals in criminal and family law matters, when I joined my last firm, my practice expanded to more of a transactional area to include real estate, corporate law, and estate planning. It was during these times I began to truly appreciate the various areas of the law and how intertwined they become and how they overlap as you practice law. Throughout the 22 years of my practice, my interest and desire to fully understand and apply the law and to further the interests of my clients grew stronger. I recognize the importance of gaining the respect of my clients, those at the courthouse, including the court attendants, clerks, court reporters, and most importantly, the judges. This transitioned into me taking on the responsibility of being part of our executive council at our local bar and also being a co-chair for the Barristers Ball, which raised money for Help Legal Aid within our community. During this time, my interest in serving as a judge began, and I knew I wanted to be one of those individuals on the bench to help individuals resolve their matters fairly and allow them to have their matter fully heard before me. I quickly realized after being appointed as a district court judge, my general practice served me very well as a district court judge. My appreciation of the law and the judicial process has intensified. As my application reveals, I have fully immersed myself and invested myself within the judicial branch, with all the opportunities available within the branch, including serving on committees at the local and state level, serving as a drug court judge, and presenting on various topics at all various conferences across the state. I believe the transparency of the judiciary is very important. Judges need to be involved not only within the branch, but also within the community that they serve. I am proud to be one of the many faces of the judicial branch, and I'm proud to say I love what I do. It is important for the community to see judges interacting within the community, even as being at the local farmers market, being present at sporting events, any event within the community, or what it might be. Interacting with the members of the community enforces that the judges are real people whose jobs are important, whose job is to make important decisions for the benefit of the citizens within the communities they serve. I am fortunate to be a judge, if I'm fortunate enough to be a judge in the Court of Appeals, I will remain in Scott County in Eldridge, Iowa, where I reside with my wife, Angie, who's a kindergarten teacher, my oldest daughter, Madeline, who will be a junior at the University of Iowa, and Adrian, who will be a senior at North Scott High School, and Henry, who we affectionately call H, who will be entering junior high as a 7th grader. They are all overly involved in all their activities, both within school and extracurricular activities. As a district court judge, I have proven my ability to understand and apply the law to the facts after carefully considering all the evidence that has been presented to me in a case. This is indicated by my rulings and orders. I try to be as practical in approaching those cases and concise in my writings for those rulings that I've done, which will prepare me well to be an effective Court of Appeals judge. I've also proven my ability to collaborate on matters based upon my involvement on committees and boards. I understand the collaboration with the judges at the Court of Appeals will be a bit different, but I believe these skills will serve me well to collaborate with the judges on the Court of Appeals. My personality and my temperament will lend well to this collaboration, which I can do without losing my independent thinking. My judicial temperament has served me very well thus far in my judicial career. I make every effort to be a judge individuals can come and approach, to speak to have their situation considered, or even have an order entered, even if it's not on my docket. I'm the type of individual that I roll up my sleeve, attack a situation, get the job done. That's what I'm there for. That's my job. The clerks, the attorneys at the courthouse, court administration, my colleagues recognize that. If I'm available, I'm going to take on the job. I don't shy away from any additional responsibilities. As a Court of Appeals judge, I will continue to uphold the laws of the state of Iowa and the United States. I will use my life experiences and professional experiences to ensure that the litigants in the case presented receive justice. I have the abilities to manage the caseload assigned and expeditiously resolve the matters that are presented. My work as a district court judge and my varied and general practice has given me the respect, appreciation, awareness, and the knowledge of the hard work done by all the participants to create the record that I will have to review to make these important decisions. I have seen firsthand how our decisions impact the parties that come before me as a district court judge. I can't imagine how the decisions of the Court of Appeals impact the litigants that come before them, because that's often the final decision in their matter. I would be privileged and honored to serve the citizens of the entire state of Iowa as a judge on the Court of Appeals. I would attack this position with the same enthusiasm as I have for my current position. As I look back, I have been so fortunate to have the opportunities to come my way to make a difference, and I would embrace this opportunity to continue to make a difference. Additionally, every time I walk into a courtroom and the individuals in the courtroom stand in respect of the law that I represent, I often pause and reflect, how fortunate am I to have this job? And I would continue to hold that feeling in if I'm fortunate enough to be appointed to the Court of Appeals. And I thank you for your consideration for my application to the Court of Appeals.
Thank you. And we'll have a few minutes for questions. Ms. Conover.
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Bloom.
I thought maybe you could expand a little bit on the Family Law Project, which I believe you were co-chair of.
Yes, that's a really interesting process where it's helping to really meet the needs of a lot of self-represented litigants, but we're hoping that the attorneys will use this process also for possibly limited representation matters, meaning helping. What happens in that process is the parties present their case solely to the judge. The attorneys don't argue their case before the judge. The only argument that they can make is a closing argument. A lot of attorneys are really uncomfortable of that because they want to control the case, and I understand that. But for our self-represented litigants, it really provides a great service for them because it gives them their voice within the court, and the judge is able to direct the case and ask questions, because typically during a case, we're not allowed to ask those questions unless it's absolutely necessary to do so. And this was a pilot project within the 7th Judicial District. It's my understanding, talking with Justice Waterman, that the Supreme Court is looking to expand that statewide, and I'm very excited about that. We've had some limited success with that. I believe it just will take a little more information to attorneys to utilize that process, and I think it will be a great service to the citizens of the state.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Spies.
Thank you. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Judge, the people with whom I've spoken and read about your application reveal that you, in your private practice, and even your role as a district court judge, has been accentuated by a sense of heart. And there's often a notion that an appellate judge has to surrender empathy Could you tell us what your view of the role of empathy of an appellate judge is?
That may be true to a certain extent, Mr. Spees, but I think you still have to have a bit of empathy as you consider the arguments that may be brought on behalf of individuals. You have to see where they're coming from their life experiences or their position within where their employment, their limited means. I think that will have an impact, possibly even more so in the area of family and criminal law when the attorneys are arguing the positions for their clients. Oftentimes, those individuals, particularly even in a family law case, they may be representing themselves. So I think that you have to take that into consideration. I understand our purpose is to uphold the law, of course, and you have to set aside some of that empathy. But to understand where the people are coming from in their arguments, I believe it would be very important to understand and to hopefully make a decision that would be just.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hoytig.
Judge, when we spoke and met, I asked you what you thought might have been the biggest criticism of you, and you had suggested that perhaps people thought you were too nice, which I struggle to see as a criticism. But you have to make hard calls, and unfortunately, in some disputes, not everybody wins. Have you had to make decisions where it hurt, where perhaps it wasn't the outcome you would have liked personally, but you followed the law to an outcome where you just didn't feel that good about it?
Of course. It has happened sometimes. Oftentimes when you have to sentence individuals in a criminal situation, that does become a bit difficult. You would hope that maybe you might have some discretion that you did not have, recognizing some of the limitations that an individual might have. It has happened more so in the criminal area, I would say, but that's my job. But I have to live with that, and even though I've had to make some of those tough decisions, I've even had some of those criminal defendants come up to me and thank me later for my considerations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. O'Brien.
Thank you. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
About what percentage of the family law litigation involves people representing themselves rather than having an attorney? And how do you think this affects the Court of Appeals and how that court handles the cases?
It's increasing every day. I would have to say almost approximately 1/3 of our cases are self-represented individuals when it comes to family law. And that is difficult because we're limited as far as our ability to give them advice and direction in those cases. As it comes to the Court of Appeals, I'm not sure how many of those cases may come before the Court of Appeals because they may not know the resources to utilize to appeal their matter to the Court of Appeals. But if it does come to the Court of Appeals, I think that may have to be considered somewhat when they're trying to present their case so that the Court of Appeals hopefully obtains the exact issue that they're trying to present and apply the law and give them a just answer.
Mr. Sukup, one quick question.
Quick question. All right. In your significant legal matter, you cited the medical marijuana about 5 years ago. Has Iowa law changed? There had been a different ruling in that case?
Not yet, sir. Basically, that was the law that does not allow a medical necessity defense, and it's my understanding that that has not changed yet.
Thank you.
We have 1 minute remaining. If you could be very brief. Mr. Goodman, you have opportunity.
This is for him, not you. This is him.
Judge Latham, you've been an attorney for 23 years and a judge for 6. If you would have bypassed serving as a judge for 6 years and gone to the appellate court directly from your 23 years of private practice, can you share with us what you think you would have been lacking in that service?
In my opinion, I'd be lacking just the full understanding of what goes into the record before the court and some of the very hard decisions that are made by our district court judges and associate district court judges, and the work. I'm still learning of all the work that goes in behind the scenes to administer justice as those cases come before the court.
Thank you.
Well done. Judge Latham, thank you for being here today, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much.